Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome to the Big Ideas session this afternoon. My name is Kevin Sternekert, and our session title today is How Localized Assortments Help the Home Depot Drive Customer and Shareholder Value. Today will be a great treat to hear from Aaron Sereski of the Home Depot. He currently holds the position of Senior Director of Assortment Planning and Analysis. And he brings over 17 years of retail experience to his role, where he leads assortment planning at the Home Depot. In addition to assortment planning, Aaron leads teams across numerous functions, including M&A and strategy, finance, and also pricing. Part of his current role, he was a Director of Financial Planning and Analysis, where his team supported merchandising and advanced big data analytics. Aaron's passionate about solving problems for the customer and bringing both science and art as a perspective in the decision-making process. This session is sponsored by Predictix, and it's our pleasure to be able to introduce to you Aaron. I'm going to sit down and let him speak, and then I'll just stand up for 60 seconds at the end. So Aaron, it's your turn.
Hello. Thanks, Kevin, for those kind words. It's very, very nice. I am super excited about being here today. For a couple of reasons. One, this is my first NRF, which is kind of crazy to think about it, right? But it is insane out there. It's like everybody in the world coming out to try to help retailers become a better retailer. And you can't ask for a better experience than that. We are going to talk about three things today. Okay, first point. Large retailers face unique challenges. I know many of you guys represent software companies or consulting firms or other retailers, and you will be aligned with me when you say that the retail environment has changed more in the last 3 years than in the last 30 years. And I expect that the next 3 years of change will be even greater. That's the first point. The second point is that while we see a lot of science out there, right? I mean, hundreds of people selling science. The reality is you can't be a great retailer today if you don't also balance the art with the science. And so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk a little bit, show some real examples around that. And then third, I want to walk you through the Home Depot journey and share with you some insights about what worked and what didn't work, and why this is a long-term venture and not something that happens overnight. I have to tell you, I have a personal connection to New York. I've never lived here myself, but I love New York. And I think part of the reason is, many of you might be in the same boat, is my family immigrated to the United States of America 100 years ago through New York, right? Through Ellis Island. And they came to find the American dream. They came to start their own business and to be successful. And so I thought one way to talk about the evolution of retail, if you'll indulge me, is to talk a little bit about that journey and where retail was 100 years ago and where retail is today. So this is their store, 1915 in South Carolina. The really good-looking guy with the mustache is my great-grandfather. His brother off to the side over there. You know, retail was very different in 1915. The owner of the store was the chief merchandising officer. The owner of the store was the chief customer analytics officer. The owner of the store procured the product, managed the space. They knew the customer very, very well. And I think one of the themes of today's conversation is that the more things change, the more they're actually the same. Retailers of today with hundreds or thousands of locations want to look more like that store. And the question is, how can you do it without having 2,000 owners in each store? How do you take advantage of the scale, but get the benefits of localized assortment? And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you would, spend a second taking a look at this Dilbert cartoon. Sometimes it takes a cartoon to remind us how simple it really is, right? Right? We think that retail sometimes is so complicated. At the end of the day, it's about giving people what they want. What's hard is finding out what they want and how much quantity they want it and what they're willing to pay for it. So if I think about the Home Depot journey, Bernie Marcus started the Home Depot in 1979. It was a single location in Atlanta, Georgia. He was the chief merchant, he was the operator, he designed the assortment for that store. But he knew he had a business model that he wanted to scale across the country. When I joined the Home Depot in 1998, we were opening up a store every 48 hours. Every 48 hours, we're opening up a new Home Depot store, slowed down to 72 hours at one point. Do you think we could possibly have had the same kind of localized assortment then as we had in that very first store in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia in 1979? It would have been impossible. You can have all the localized field merchandising people you want. You can have great store managers. But in the end of the day, you're opening up a store every 48 hours, and each store's got 50,000 different products in it, okay? So that's sort of the middle of that graph. As you go to the right, our challenge today, and my passion, is how do I take 1,975 stores and turn them into 1,975 neighborhood stores? How do I go from growing sales by growing square feet to growing sales per square foot? It's a completely different mind shift. And when your organization gets to the point that that's how they're thinking, it has a ripple effect from the top senior management all the way down to the store level employees. You know, we have at Home Depot, the average store has about 50,000 products across about 500 different categories. I'd say the average category at Home Depot, so we have 1,975 stores, probably has over 1,000 assortments today. We try to get as localized as we possibly can by listening to our customers and listening to our associates. But what we realized was this idea of the balance of art and science. So our chief merchandising officer has made this a cornerstone of what he's going to stand for at the Home Depot. Understanding the customer, localizing product and price and space to meet that customer's needs, and then going back and optimizing it after you've done it the first round. So there are many keys to success here. So a couple of things. Clustering. How do you group your stores in ways that your merchants and buyers can make sense of them? Because you can't tell a merchant you've got 1,975 different assortments, go have fun managing that for the next 3 years, right? You've got to group the stores in clusters so that they can have some sort of framework in order to manage that business. Substitutable item groups. How do I understand if I add a new, in the case of Home Depot, a new hammer, am I going to get incremental sales from that hammer? Or is those units going to transfer to other hammers that already solve the customer's needs that's existing in my assortment? Automated set creation, marketplace dynamics, competition. These are all the things that have to go into this balance of art and science. Merchant experience. We can't forget merchant experience and then the art. Visualization tools to help merchants understand the complexity of their business, assortments that are space aware, scenario performance. When we're designing assortments, how do you give the merchant multiple scenarios from them to choose from? High growth scenarios, low growth scenarios, multiple vendor strategies, a single vendor strategy. These are all the things that you want to think about as you're designing localized assortments. And then at the top of the page, we talk about attributes and traits. The Home Depot is obsessed with attributing SKUs. Because what are you analyzing if you're not analyzing the attributes of a SKU? A 6-digit SKU number doesn't do any good. We're obsessed with attributing SKUs so that we can understand the performance in our business down to the SKU store level and make assortment decisions that reflect the needs of the local customer. Y'all want to hear an example? Let's talk about water heaters for a minute. Everybody here is familiar with a water heater, I presume. Okay, that's why we picked this and not insulation or drywall or something like that. So when we analyze water heaters, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to attribute the water heaters. And there are lots of different kinds of water heaters, believe it or not. You've got gas water heaters that have a gas line that goes into it. You have electric water heaters, tall, short, high warranty, and expensive. We even have water heaters that have Wi-Fi connected to them. Y'all should go buy one. And we have, your OPP contractor water heater. So you've got to attribute your water heaters. Then you have to group your stores based off customer buying behaviors. So I can understand which stores need gas and electric and expensive and less expensive. We analyze all that data and we build our assortments using our assortment planning tools. We look at the space in each store of how many bays of water heaters they have versus what they need. And then we go execute. That's the process of localization. What are the results of localization? This middle graph is a graph of Atlanta. Each bubble is a store. Each color represents a store cluster. The blue dots represent stores that prefer electric water heaters. They are in the rural areas of town where there is no gas line. As you get closer in, you get to orange bubbles. These are stores that highly penetrate in gas water heaters. And then you even have hybrid stores in the green and the yellow. Notice how this is different than clustering and localization of years past. This is not an urban strategy and a suburban strategy, a high income strategy and a low income strategy. Demographics no longer drive the assortments. Customer buying behavior drives the assortments. And so we can have stores that are just a mile or two apart that might have different assortments based off the local needs of the customers in that neighborhood. So we did it in water heaters, and we got double-digit comps. We'll all take double-digit comps in this environment, right? But then the chief merchandising officer said, you know what, this was great, but I bet there's more you can optimize. This was just the first pass. Go back and do it again. Sure enough, we go back and do it again. We get double-digit comps again. Now he's asking me to do it a third time. I'm trying to lower his expectations. So what's the journey for Home Depot to drive assortment planning benefits? Well, we started out fine. One thing we decided we needed to do was stay away from the canned approach. Now, let me just start by saying, I am not a technologist. I know enough to be dangerous, but probably not enough to be helpful. So, all I said was we need flexibility. We need a system that can grow with us as our analytics change, as our customers evolve, as our thinking evolves. We need tools and technology that can come along with us. So that's good. And we started off in an agile environment. I'm sure many of you are familiar with agile versus waterfall. It was my first time in agile, and I'll never go back. I mean, agile was just the way to go for us because we were able to get the buy-in from the developers and from the users at the same time, which really helped with the, adoption, as we'll talk about in a moment. Okay? So once we had the technology solution and we had the development platform of agile development, then we knew we were good to go to create the planning tool for the future for the Home Depot. So where are we today? All of the assortment planning activity at the Home Depot now goes through our assortment planning technology. We have adopted the technology as a core bedrock of how we do things at Home Depot, and we have balanced the science with the art so that our merchandising team buys into the decisions that we're suggesting, and that we can tweak the science to fit the needs of the art. User adoption has been achieved. I know for many of us, user adoption is one of the challenges that we have in introducing any type of planning tools or pricing tools or space tools. And it was a struggle for us at the beginning because frankly, people like their Excel spreadsheets. They had been doing it for years and that's how they knew how to do things. But once we designed a tool with their buy-in and they were part of the solution, then the tool no longer became something that I was forcing upon them. It became something that they came to me and said, when can I get on it? And that's really the key to good adoption. By the way, I'll say when we started this process, one thing I promised myself is I would never take away their old solution. Because if the new solution didn't stand by itself, it probably wasn't working for the organization. So I gave them a choice. They could do it the old way or the new way. And that put pressure on us to make sure that the new way was faster, more efficient, and more effective than the old way. And we know the retail world is not changing, so we're not changing either. I'd say, we made the down payment in assortment tools. We're past crawling, thank God. We're probably in a good steady walk, but we've got a long way to go before we're going to be jogging and running. But we have a plan and a vision for getting there. So what were some of the lessons that we learned? Well, we learned that Agile is the way to go when it comes to building an iterative assortment planning tool. We learned that the adoption efforts, and I mean shoulder-to-shoulder training in classrooms and real attention by the software provider to be able to spend dedicate many, many hours with the planners to teach and train them both the art of how to build plans and also the science of the technology is a critical component to adoption. And we learned that you need to have a technology partner that's willing to grow with you and willing to build things that fit your needs. What should retailers avoid like the plague? This is my own personal opinion. The waterfall approach to building assortment planning tools I think is dangerous. We tried that path and it did not work for us. You cannot abdicate your merchandising strategy to a third party, whether it be a consulting firm or a software vendor. It has to be unique to you as a retailer and what you're trying to drive. Then find the software provider that can help you build a solution to go do that. And so the future for us is all about driving a competitive advantage. I believe that most retailers can replicate and copy individual aspects of other retailers. Clustering, I don't think, is unique to Home Depot. Price optimization, space optimization, et cetera. Competitive advantage comes when you fit these different sciences together in a process that's internal to your organization. That unleashes the power of all these individual silos and makes it very difficult for the competition to replicate. And by using Agile, we're able to capture that value more frequently than if we had done a waterfall approach and waited for the final assortment planning tool at the end of the day. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen over the next 5 years. I think it's going to be tremendous for us, and I think that we're on the right path from a technology standpoint. All right, so just to wrap things up briefly, we talked about large retailers facing challenges. Localization doesn't come naturally. You have to work at it and you have to invest in it. The balancing of art and science is critically important. Science simply complements the knowledge and the experiences of your merchants. That's what science does for us. It allows you to scale the merchandising expertise that you already have in your companies. And lastly, it is a journey. It's not an overnight success. You have to be thoughtful, you have to plan well, and you have to think about this in multi-years.
I want to thank Aaron for his presentation. So it's been quite a thrill to have an opportunity to visit with Aaron and learn from him and to understand exactly what the Home Depot has been doing. Predictix is quite pleased to work with retailers just like the Home Depot and provide game-changing capabilities that retailers are using around the world. We offer configurable solutions that are cloud native, that are using the cloud and leveraging its capabilities. We center on machine learning. We deliver demand prediction as well as shaping and fulfillment capabilities. And as you heard from Aaron, we're continuously evolving. We have a number of applications that this technology is applied to and problems that we're solving with retailers. It's been our pleasure to be a sponsor and to host Aaron in his conversation. He'll be around a little bit if you have questions. And then if you're interested, we have a cocktail event that you may be able to find some time with Aaron as well. So thank you very much for your time. Hope this has been as enriching for you as it has been for us. And have a great rest of the show.